There were plenty of bad candidates in the 2024 election, but the worst was Arizona Senate candidate Carrie Lake. Now, let me explain. Let me get into it. So, there are a few nominees for worst candidate. I think the top two have to be Lake and Mark Robinson, who ran as the gubernatorial nominee for Republicans in North Carolina. Now, a lot of people are just going to jump to Robinson because he was a conservative voice who, among other things, was found out to have frequented a pornography message board website where he referred to himself as, quote, a black Nazi, expressed for support for reinstating slavery, and yes, despite being a loud voice against transgender rights, said on that message board that he enjoyed transgender pornography. Now, he got beat very badly in the governor's race, but he's not my pick, even though he's the fashionable pick. I get it. He was terrible as a candidate and as a campaign. But I'm going with Carrie Lake as the worst candidate. Now, if you don't know who Carrie Lake is, she was for about 2 decades a well-known TV anchor in Arizona, in the Phoenix area. And that was one of the reasons why when she announced she was going to run for governor in 2022, so last election, lots of people were interested in her. She was attractive. She's charismatic, good speaker. People knew who she was. And she was running as a sort of, in the mold of Donald Trump, that the populist, wokeism run wild, all these sorts of things. It was a very winnable race for Carrie Lake, and she lost. She never conceded that race. She insisted, even as she was deciding that she was going to run for Senate in 2024, that she had actually won. She was filing all sorts of lawsuits and saying all sorts of things about how there are all these ballots that were that should have been counted or should not have been counted. She was Arizona's Donald Trump, no question. Except it worked a lot less well for Carrie Lake than it worked for Donald Trump. So Kyrsten Sinema says she's not running for re-election, the senator. The race begins. Lake is impossible to beat in a Republican primary because she has sort of the Trump aura to her. She becomes the nominee. Now, this is a campaign that from the start is not particularly good. And by that, I mean it's bad. Lake tries. She knows she has damaged her brand after losing the governor's race in 2022, even with a bunch of Republicans. I'll note that in that race, the 2022 race, she said to Republicans who had voted for John McCain, the late senator in the past, to get the hell out of here in terms of the party, that she was not interested in their votes. Never a good thing for a politician to tell at least some of the base of your party you do not want them to vote for you. Okay, so she's a damaged brand, but she thinks she can fix that. So she tries to moderate on things like abortion and all that sort of stuff in the beginning of the Senate race. But like always, your true colors show through. And Lake just over and over and over again winds up proving that she is the negative character that lots of Democrats and even some Republicans, lots of Republicans actually, believe of her. So in April of 2024, she says to her supporters, you need to, quote, strap on a Glock, end quote, to get ready for the coming fall election, which if you need to appeal to independent voters and even some Democratic voters, probably not the best rhetoric. Then she leaks a conversation that she has with the state party chairman at the time, Republican chairman, a guy named Jeff DeWitt, in which she says he tries to bribe her out of the race, which leaves DeWitt eventually resigns because of the controversy. The point is, there's just drama, constant drama. And in the background, there's this drumbeat of the fact that Lake still won't admit that she lost the 2022 election. And so what winds up happening is that Democrats nominated a young Hispanic congressman named Ruben Gallego. Fine candidate, right? Sort of a generic-ish Democratic candidate. And you might think like, okay, well, that race, it should be a toss-up. Whoever wins the presidential race in the state, swing state, will probably wind up carrying their Senate nominee over the line, right? Makes sense. Except that's not what happens because Arizona voters really don't like Carrie Lake. So what winds up happening is this. Donald Trump wins Arizona 52-47 over Kamala Harris. 5-point victory. His biggest margin of victory percentage-wise in any of the swing states by a significant amount. And you would think then, of course, well, he won by 5. Carrie Lake in a toss-up race, she's going to win. She does not win. Ruben Gallego wins 50% to 48%. So Lake loses by 2, even as her presidential nominee is winning by 5. Trump gets 52 in the state. Lake gets 48 in the state. So there's a 4% underperformance. What does that tell you? It tells you literally that Arizona voters did not want to vote for Carrie Lake, that there were lots and lots of people who voted for Donald Trump and either didn't vote at all in the Senate race or voted for Ruben Gallego. And by the way, Ruben Gallego and Donald Trump do not agree on any policy. Right? This is 100% an anti-Carrie Lake vote. If you voted for Donald Trump and then Ruben Gallego, you were voting against Carrie Lake. Does that make sense? So it's just an absolute swing and a miss by Lake and by Arizona Republicans. And in some ways, it's one we saw coming, but Republicans couldn't stop. So the problem is, I talked to tons of people in Arizona, Republicans, who said a year and a half ago, like, if we nominate Carrie Lake, it's going to be a problem in the Senate race. And they wanted this guy, Doug Ducey, the former pretty moderate, not that Trumpy governor of Arizona, to run. But Ducey doesn't run because he knows he would probably lose in a primary where Lake is still relatively strong, would lose in a primary to her. He's not going to run. So they wind up ceding the nomination to her effectively. And she has a primary, but she wins it. And yet, it still came true. They lose a totally winnable Senate race. In a state that the Republican presidential nominee wins by 5, Republicans wind up losing an open seat Senate race. And to me, that is 100% at the feet of Carrie Lake. She is not someone that Arizona voters want. She is not someone they're going to vote for. She was damaged in 2022. It now appears to be irreparably damaged in 2022. She's now run for office twice, and she has lost twice. Voters do not want Carrie Lake to represent them. That much is clear, at least general election voters. They don't want her as the governor, and they don't want her as the U.S. senator. It's a massive missed opportunity by Republicans, and I lay that at the feet of the person that I deign. This is like I'm knighting someone. The worst candidate of 2024, Carrie Lake. And for people asking, yes, I am going to do best candidate of 2024 too. I haven't got around to that video yet, but I will do that in a video. But worst was a little bit easier because Lake jumped out at me. And yes, I did think of going Mark Robinson, but I decided Lake in the end made more sense, at least to me. Okay, as always, 4 things. 1, subscribe to this channel. 2, like this video. 3, comment. Who's your worst candidate? Do you agree with my Carrie Lake pick, or is there someone else that I'm missing that I should have put in there? Robinson or somebody else? And 4, tell 10 friends. All right, everybody, take care of yourselves.